Good evening and welcome to tonight's very first Flash Fiction Open Mic Night, brought to you by Friends of the Edgewater Library in partnership with the Edgewater Branch Library. I'm Jane Ward, President of Friends of the Edgewater Library and co-chair of the Programming Committee. Now on to the highlight of the evening. The writing and reading website Readsy defines flash fiction as a type of prose narrative that takes the form of very brief, self-contained stories. The form focuses on story movement rather than plot or character, and each sentence, or sometimes even word, peels back a layer and progresses the story. Tonight, writers and artists within our communities are bringing their stories to an audience. Friends of the Edgewater Library are happy to offer them this forum, sharing their many talents and perspectives. It doesn't matter whether you're a veteran writer or an emerging one. Tonight, you're all here to shine among your peers and friends and neighbors. So let's jump right in with reader number one. We have Martin M. Martin, you may unmute yourself, your audio and video. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Marty Myers, and this is a work of fiction. Growing up, the most awful events always happened during the summer. There was the tragedy when I was 6. Mrs. Williams running from house to house, still wearing her pink apron. "Susie, is Kenny over at your place?" Turning around, moving down Cutler Drive, crossing the street, nothing. And then the screams from the O'Malley's backyard, the yellow colonial with the black shutters, the house with the swimming pool that no one other than the O'Malleys ever used. I thought nothing could be as horrible as what happened to little Kenny that summer day, but I was wrong. It was the summer I turned 9. My best friend Tommy saw me on my front lawn. "Hey, why don't we set up a lemonade stand?" It didn't take much convincing. Even my mom loved the idea. Oh, bless her soul. How her support of that lemonade stand tortured her, even through her final days at Gleason's assisted living facility. You see, I was the one who first saw the man in the dark blue Mustang. My mom was inside, leaving Tommy and I to run things, but I remembered him. I was the one who helped the police with the description that day and in the weeks ahead. Sometimes what you love can go missing forever. The gold wedding band slipping from your finger into Lake Michigan. The peach cobbler recipe, handwritten in that beautiful cursive penmanship by your late mother. All gone, never to be recovered. He had a thick neck, crew-cut blonde hair, and a Roadrunner tattoo on his right arm. He smiled, handed me $1, but he spoke to Tommy. "Hey, little man, pour me a cup." The Mustang was idling as Tattoo Man slowly drank. "I bet you are a big Cubs fan. Am I right?" Tommy smiled. "Yes, sir." Where was my mom? Why did the cars just keep driving past us instead of stopping to buy our ice cold lemonade on that awful day? And so the tattooed man leaned closer to Tommy. "Follow me, little man. I'll show you an autographed baseball I have from Mr. Ernie Banks himself." 51 years later, I never recall a moment of hesitation as they walked side by side to the Mustang. The man said something to Tommy as he opened the passenger door. Tommy sat on the blue bucket seat, leaving the door open as the man took a seat behind the steering wheel. The car continued to idle with the door still wide open as I saw the man holding a baseball in front of Tommy. Tommy, the biggest Cubs fan in our class. And so they sat in that car. No bell sounds from an ice cream truck approaching. No mothers with strollers walking past our lemonade stand. Tommy closed the car door, looked over at me, and gave me a big smile as the blue Mustang slowly drove away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you so much for that.
Welcome.
You could take a minute now to mute yourself again.
I will.
We have our next reader up is Susan W. Susan, if you want to unmute your audio and video and start your reading. tell us a little bit about your story.
Oops, you can't see me, can you? Oops, there, okay. Okay. This is just a part of a book that I've published. I'm holding it up, Secret Lives by Susan Wells. I'm just going to read you 2 pages. It didn't take Ruth long to reach the police station on Fremont. She hurried inside up to the desk clerk shouting, "I can't find my daughter." "What is your daughter's name?" asked Bonnie Purnell, the police station records clerk. "Carolyn Fazzino. She's not in her apartment. Don't just sit there. Look for her." Her voice was rising. "Your name?" the clerk asked as she tapped the keys of her computer. "Ruth Hendricks." "Sergeant Dotson has assigned Detective Waller and Garcia to work on this case." "She's not a case. She's my daughter." Ruth's voice was getting higher. Calmly, the clerk said into her phone, "Carolyn Fazzino's mother is here." "Good," was Detective Waller's brief answer. She and her partner walked to the front where they found the distraught mother. Ruth screamed, "I can't find Carolyn anywhere." In a soothing voice, Waller asked, "Can you come inside so we can get started right away at finding her?" Ruth, with her shoulders slumped, simply nodded in agreement. "Please come this way so we can help find her." Once inside a smaller interview room, the detectives introduced themselves and Waller said, "Please have a seat. Would you like a cup of coffee or water?" "Nothing, just find her." Ruth caught a fast breath. They could hear the painful rasp where her throat was closing. Waller asked, "How old is Carolyn?" Ruth's voice was starting to wobble. 29. Garcia noticed Mrs. Hendricks' expensive white veneer teeth that hadn't grown in her mouth. "When did you last see her or hear from her?" asked Detective Garcia as he sat next to his partner. Ruth sniffled, but explained, "Monday afternoon. Carolyn didn't go to work that day. She was getting a crown in the morning. She phoned me that afternoon saying that she was home from the dentist. Her mouth was still numb, but she was going to take a couple Tylenol and lay down." Waller used a gentle but firm voice, prodding, "Do you remember anything else?" Mrs. Hendricks shook her head nervously, her voice filled with anguish. "No, not really. I said something about calling me if she needed anything. She said she wanted to sleep. She hadn't slept much the night before because her tooth hurt." "Why hasn't she called me back?" Tears were running down her cheeks. With concern in her voice, Garcia questioned, "How would you describe your relationship with your daughter?" "We're close. We talk every night. I really enjoy hearing her voice, even though sometimes it's only a few minutes. But Carolyn didn't answer last night. I don't understand what's going on." The worry cracked in her voice. "Something is very wrong." "Does she live with anyone?" asked Waller. Ruth looked down towards the tabletop. Her voice quivered. "Well, she's separated from her husband. I always liked Vince. He's handsome, charismatic, Italian. I could easily see why Vince made Carolyn so happy. But after they were married a few years, I sensed something was wrong." I'm going to end right there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you now to mute your audio and video again.
Okay.
And we will call on reader number 3, Joanna B. Joanna, welcome.
Well, thanks, Jane. So I am a Friends member. I am also co-chair of the Communications Committee. I'm a native of New Orleans, and this story that I'm going to read tonight is a true story with a fictional ending. It's called The Red Line. She was sitting on the L, the Red Line, quietly reading, watching the city fly by. Absorbed in a short story, she suddenly heard a high-pitched, whiny voice cry out from across the car. "Hey, ow, is that you, Cat? Is that you? Oh!" She noticed a thin black man with close cropped hair, tight skinny jeans, with multiple shirts and belts jump up from across the aisle, a few seats down from her, and make his way towards someone sitting behind her. "Girl, it's really you," the thin black man screeched as he strutted past her. He was gay, and not just gay, but over the top. Since coming to Chicago, she met many gay men, but the town was so business that you seldom saw this kind of flashy gay man. In her hometown of New Orleans, yes, but she rarely saw them here. The gay men she knew in Chi-Town were all stylishly dressed, soft-spoken, intelligent, understated, nothing to distract from the business of the business. But on this day, here was a screamer. She smiled to herself, watching the scene unfold. "Where you been?" he cried to the person known only as Cat. You could barely hear Cat answer as the screamer continued his high-pitched carrying on about Cat's recent whereabouts. Turning, the two began to make their way back towards the Screecher's friends, and Cat came into view. She noticed he was tall, thin, and quiet, with bright red aviator glasses, tinted gray gold lenses, and hair to match, but cropped so close it looked like peach fuzz. Dressed in white with a silver-studded belt, Cat looked elegant compared to his friends. Cat slid into the window seat as the Screecher continued to hound him about his whereabouts for the past several months. Cat answered in hushed tones, a deafening contrast to his friends. With eyes hidden behind the glasses, she had the feeling Cat wanted to be someplace else. Dragged back to reality by the mechanical voice, "Next stop, Fullerton," she closed her book, grabbed her bag, and prepared to get off the red line. The L ground to a halt. She exited the train to meet her colleague on the Brown Line platform and head into the loop. As she began to recount the scene she had just witnessed to her friend, she looked up to see the Brown Line coming down the track, just a breath away from the Fullerton station. She felt someone brush past her and noticed only the red line of Cat's glasses as she hit the tracks.
Wow. Thank you. Wow, it was quite an ending. Appreciate you reading very much. Thank you. All right. You go ahead and mute yourself again. I'm moving on to reader number 4, but I think reader number 4 is not here with us this evening. Francis M. All right. I don't see you on the list, so I'm moving on, and I believe our next person is Andrew M. And Andrew might not be with us here tonight. Okay. All right, so we're just moving right along to Elizabeth S., reader number 6. You are now reader number 4. Elizabeth, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh. Is Elizabeth not, did she? Okay. I guess she has left as well. All right, Fran H. We have Fran. All right, well, we're going to move on then to Anara G.
I'm unmuted, but it says that I cannot.
Okay, let's see. I can get your video for you.
Thank you.
Should work. There you go. All right, welcome.
Thank you. So for those of you who know me, thank you for coming. I've seen a few faces names that I recognize. The story I'm going to read is a very short one from a little chapbook I published some years ago called The Sound of One Body. And the story is called She is Having a Good Time. There is nothing reassuring about that. He watches as she leans toward the bathroom mirror carefully so that her black dress won't graze against the sink where powder has spilled. She applies blush, mascara, lipstick. When she threads earrings through the holes in her lobes, her gaze turns inward, her eyes unfocused and dark as her fingers grope their way to the opening, fastening the wires at the back. She no longer sees him then, held in the doorway, and he has the sense that he is vanishing along with her vision, as if his reflection no longer exists, his admiring face dissolved. The edge of the door jamb is keenly sharp against his upper arm. His heart pounds. He wants to shout to her, suddenly afraid that she might step into a street with that blank stare. But he holds his breath, and the moment passes. Her pupils shift. He reappears. She turns around, not smiling. That little crease between her eyebrows is deeper than it was a few years ago. Ready, she says, not unkindly, but as though she had been waiting for him all along. Before he can answer, she brushes past him and he trails behind, his hands still clammy. They struggle into their separate coats, silently buttoning up, twisting scarves and jamming the ends inside their collars. The dinner party is just down the street. It's not worth warming up the car for such a short distance, but once outside, he wishes he had. All week, the weatherman has been warning of tonight's Alberta clipper, and the air is frigid, the kind of cold that seizes your lungs if you inhale too deeply. Even the lining of his coat is chilled and he shrinks away from it. With her black skirt flapping around her legs, she must be colder than he is, but she puts her head down and keeps walking, unwilling to use him as a windbreak or to match her stride with his. When their friend's front door opens, he is grateful for the rush of warm air, heavy with chatter, smoke, aromas of roasted meat. But not until his second glass of whiskey burns its way down his throat does he realize how dread has taken root in the pit of his stomach like a gnarled tree stump. He searches the room, locating her low, familiar laugh. She is having a good time. There is nothing reassuring about that. He sinks into a chair, knowing that hours from now, at the end of the night, when she will again be intent on blindly unhooking those earrings, she will say, "We need to talk," and he will disappear. Thank you.
Thank you, Anara. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, if you could mute yourself there. We'll go on to our next reader, who is Taisha S. Taisha?
I'm here. Okay.
Great.
All right. My piece is titled Friendship. Good evening. I am Taisha Marlene Singleton. I live at 5750 North Kenmore Avenue, apartment 302, Chicago, Illinois. The residential area is 5750 North Kenmore, LLC apartment building. I am a faithful and dedicated member of the Edgewater community. My current title for the nonprofit organization, Friends of the Edgewater Library, is a very good friend. The context of my piece is friendship. So here I go. I was a good friend before I met my relationship coach, Drama. I had the luxury and a lavish way of showing it. Drama was, to my surprise, loud. I moved from friendship so fast with a knack for the scenes and artistic value of math. However, school taught me that a little drama is worth a big friendship. A part of my luxuries was to establish myself as a friend and have a friend for life. The usual, hello, my name is, could work, along with the, who are you and your friends? Drama is enjoyable with friends acknowledging the minuscule reactions of a fantastic bunch. I entered the third grade classroom. I had a choice to present the letter sent to me with the gold trimming and white elite paper for introductions. I had already introduced myself. The School of Theater, and I am the teacher. With less to say as a student and more to show as the teacher of these grade 29 students, it was for me to make a difference. I asked, who wants a snack? Good vibes are always appropriate over food choices and less chaotic atmosphere. I thought to myself, I should have never broken the church's window and the church's door. Yesterday is behind me, and I am immersed in a circle of conversation with faces of Black colored females and males before me. They are my age, my height, and I know each color of essence brown in reactions are rare to my experiences. My third grade drama class of students will enjoy my simplicity as I enjoy children's drama. A brave face of friendship for a kind gesture is worth the teacher's role instead of prison. She asked, "Can I help you with the papers?" "Yes," I replied. With the class already decorated for the learning of the students, I look around for a pencil. In so much haste to accommodate for time and lack of verbiage, I darted to the pencil once I had in my hand before I joined the circle. I asked the class, "What do you think a theater stage looks like?" One student replied, "Teacher Singleton, a theater stage is big with an actor. My mom calls him a friend." I replied, "Logan, you are right. The theater stage is big. Your mom can have a male actor as a friend. The teacher can be a friend too." In astonishment, Logan smiles and moves back to the standing spot she once left empty. Drawing the stage in detail from the memory of my mind, I use a distinctive approach. I dismiss the drama-friendly class. The end.
Thank you very much. That's a very appropriate theme of friendship with the Friends program. Thank you, Taisha, for reading tonight. On to our next reader, and that is Joanne Kay. There you are.
Hi, my name is Joanne, and I'm a member of the Friends of the Edgewater Library. This is my first attempt at fiction. It's partly true, but the ending is fiction. The title is Help Me. I was sound asleep when I heard a voice. "Help me," it said. Was I dreaming? I lay still, and there it was again. "Help me." This time it wasn't as loud, and I was definitely awake. It sounded like a man's voice, pleading. I put on my glasses and glanced at the clock as I hurried to the bedroom window. It was nearly 2 a.m. I opened the window and looked down, but the trees are blocking my view to the sidewalk. The streetlights are bright, so I can see clearly across the street. I look up and down the street and squint into the shadows. I don't see anything unusual, and nothing is moving. I run into the living room to look out that window. There's a good view all the way down to the end of the block, but nothing. As I rush back into the bedroom for another look, I wonder, am I imagining this? Then I glance at the building across the street. There's a light in the window, and a woman is looking out. She must have heard that voice too. I could go outside and have a look around, but that's a waste of time, I think. So, heart thumping, I try to calm myself as I clear my throat and decide what to say when I call 911. I explain that I just heard a cry outside for help, but I don't see anyone. Yes, it was definitely outside. No, I wasn't dreaming. The woman across the street must have heard it too, because she's looking out the window too. Would you send a car to patrol the area? I glance at the clock again. Have only 4 minutes gone by? There's the police car, moving slowly, up and down the street, along the side street, and into the driveways. And then the car leaves. I glance across the street. The woman is still in the window. I decide there's nothing more I can do, so I go back to bed. Maybe I was dreaming. The dream must have been what woke me up. Now I really feel foolish for calling 911. I've put it out of my mind until 2 days later. My next door neighbor tells me she's been taking a friend to the hospital to see her husband. He had a stroke early one morning, a couple days ago, and is unable to speak. It's kind of eerie what happened, she said. Her friend got worried when her husband didn't come home at his usual time, and he didn't answer his phone. It just came to her to see if his car was in the garage, and that's where she found him. I feel a shiver run up my arms. I ask, where does your friend live? But I already know the answer. Help me.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Good work for your first fiction outing. Nice job. Thank you. Moving on. We have our next reader is Ann S. Ann, are you ready?
Yes, my name is Ann Sheets. I live in Logan Square, a neighborhood in Chicago. The piece I'm going to read is a Twitter story. It's a subcategory of flash fiction. It has fewer than 140 characters, and that includes spaces. However, I do not actually have a Twitter account and don't do social media. This is my only acquaintance with Twitter. Always, she'd called me her angel. I said, my husband had a heart attack. She looked right through me. Angels don't need confidants. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a good form to use the 140 characters of Twitter. I like that. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's a good example for people who are listening tonight of one way you can use this form. The next reader I have on my list is Suzanne H., but I don't see her on the list of people who are present. So I'm going to move on to Kathy P. Kathy, are you ready to read?
Hi.
Hi, Kathy.
I'll get on here. Okay. I'm Kathy Powers. I'm a current resident of Rogers Park in Chicago, just transplanted from Edgewater, and I'm in the Edgewater writing group. So I had to look up flash fiction to see what it was and see if I could write it. Here we go. It's called A Special All Day Tuesday. Last week, I ran into Aldi to get some almond milk and bread. I discovered something very unusual at the bagging counter. As I opened my backpack to put in the milk, I heard a low psst. I looked around to see if it was somebody that I knew trying to get my attention, or maybe a good Samaritan telling me that I dropped something. I looked around and nobody was there. I shrugged my shoulders and continued my packing. Then I heard a definitive, louder, well, this time I knew it was a cry to me. I looked around again, saw nobody. I thought maybe I was stepping on something that was making that noise. I looked to the floor and found it remarkably clean. Then I heard a, hey. It seemed to be coming from an upright brown paper bag on the counter. Was there an animal in it? I cautiously approached it. I peered over the top of the bag and found a new leatherette zipped pouch inside it. I had to see if I could find some ID in it. Somebody had left it there. I sanitized my hands and slowly unzipped it. There was no ID in it, but guess what? It was full of money with crumpled $20 and $50 bills in it. What? What was I to do with it? What if it was some drug money that the cops were watching to see who picked it up? I certainly wasn't going to pick it up. This money was not mine. It seems like dirty money called me to act. What if it was the life savings of the houseless person who left it by mistake? What was I to do with sought after money of the neediest? What if it was some candid camera stunt? It would be a great stunt recorded for the amusement of others. It could go viral. Should I do a corny money dance for the camera? Why did the bag call out to me? I can't imagine what it wanted. Maybe some attention. Money is meant to be sought after and worshipped. I am not a worshiper. Should I give it to the police? Should I give it to the store manager? Nah, that wouldn't be fair in case somebody came back for it. I stood staring at the bad vibe, sad vibe money bag, trying to figure out how much money was in it. Should I take it home and post on social media that I had it? Just reach out to me? No, that would make me look like a scammer. I couldn't do that either. I made the only decision that was reasonable to me. I carefully re-zipped the pouch and left it in the upright brown paper bag. I knew the bag would call out to somebody else. Talking money bags, dirty money, what a day. I almost missed my bus.
Thank you very much. Good job for your first attempt at flash fiction. Nice work. Okay, our next reader is Cecilia R. Are you with us here, Cecilia? You can unmute.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Okay. This is still kind of a work in progress, and it's my first time reading. She said she never thought of relationships as having or needing to have progress. There is only comfort, she said, adding that she knew that this view of others made her a very selfish person. But as someone seeking answers, I thought she had an appealing argument. There is, she supposed, also stagnation and comfort, but she'd take that any day over progress. Could it really be that simple? Or did it sound like one of those impossible claims, I tell it like it is, I call it how I see it? What is it? Does it not change? She said to call her again anytime I wanted. I thanked her, still unsettled, and ended the conversation. I decided to take a walk. I put on a turtleneck, a thick fleece sweater, a thin fraying jacket. Within minutes, my armpits started sweating, my cheeks and fingers still dead cold. Reaching harmony with the elements could prove quite unpleasant this time of year. I stepped inside a building labeled Community Center to warm up. It was a vault-like, single-story cement structure. A handful of pink metal chairs were scattered about a circular atrium, their cheerful colors seeming almost to offend. Directly opposite the door I'd used was another, a surprising mirror image, were it not for a large figure next to it. It was a man and a woman, I discovered after being only a few steps away from them. The man was sitting down and wore a heavy-looking coat, with flaps covering a wheelchair. His face appeared entirely relaxed, still. The woman hovering above his body, meanwhile, was in constant motion. She had earrings that dangled and long hair that swung about her as she reached across the man's torso, gathering his coat, tugging it on the inside of the chair. She continued her crab-like courting dance around the man. I'm trying to get him through that door, she said without looking at me. She moved one of the man's arms onto his lap, then the other, holding them both down as she reached an arm toward the door handle. But she had to let go as the man, sensing the easing of her touch, raised his arms about him and became agitated. I opened the door for them. The woman gathered the man's arms into his lap again and held them by his forearms as she moved behind him, getting ready to propel them both outside. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, the next time you read, you won't be a novice reader, you'll be experienced, an experienced pro. Good job. Okay, I have one more reader on my list and it's Chris O, but I don't see Chris on the attendance list here tonight. So I'm just going to give it one more look. I think that that might be it for the readers tonight. So what I'd like to do is let all our audience back in so we can applaud everybody. So if we want to unmute everyone, you want to take a minute to just come back in. Once you're all back in, let's give everyone a round of applause. Nice work tonight. Nice work. Sharing work with an audience is one of the most difficult things that a writer does. So I'm really pleased that everyone had such a good time doing it tonight. You all showed a lot of poise when reading, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that I hope you all keep on writing. It looks like we're going to have some time, so we can, in a minute, we can take some time after I wrap up the evening to have the audience members ask the readers tonight maybe about their stories if they'd like, or ask other questions. So just a few final remarks from us. This was another great program for Friends of the Edgewater Library. Thank you all for being a part of it. I want to remind you all that this is our last program of 2021. We'll be back in 2022 with more fun and thought-provoking events intended to highlight our wonderful Edgewater Branch Library, as well as the work that the Friends group does to raise funds and awareness for the library's presence in our neighborhood. The library has been a lifeline for so many people and remains one of the places where events like this are open to everyone. If you want to visit our website, foelchicago.org, you can stay in touch with us there and find out all we have planned for you in 2022. Many thanks again to tonight's readers and audience members alike for making this forum possible. We look forward to seeing more of you next year. Good night.
Good night.
And thank you for doing this.
Thank